Hello guys, welcome back to Mr. English Talks. Today, I want you to imagine something very clear. You're standing near a highway at night. Suddenly you hear a sound far away. Not a soft luxury car sound, but a sharp, angry scream. A flash of green rushes past you. It is a Kawasaki Ninja. The rider twists the throttle, and the bike jumps forward like a wild animal. No music. No talking, just raw power. Kawasaki motorcycles are not polite. They are not quiet and gentle. They are famous for something else: power, speed, and a little bit of danger. But how did this image begin? How did a company that once built ships and airplanes become a symbol of pure, raw power onto wheels? Today, in simple English, we will explore the story. How Kawasaki built a legacy of raw power bikes. And, at the end, we will see what you can learn from this story for your own life and your English journey. Let's go back, far back, before motorcycles, before ninjas, before the green racing suits. Our story starts in 1878 with a man named Shuzo Kawasaki in Japan. At that time, Japan was changing fast. It was opening to the world, learning modern industry, building ships, and railways. Shuzo Kawasaki started a shipyard. His company would later become Kawasaki Heavy Industries. For many years, Kawasaki did not make bikes or cars. They built big things: ships, locomotives, train engines, bridges, industrial machines, heavy steel, big engines, strong power. Later, they also built aircraft engines and airplanes. So from the very beginning, Kawasaki's DNA was about one thing: serious power. Then came World War II. Japan lost. After the war, the country was broken and poor. Many factories were destroyed, and companies that made aircraft for the military were not allowed to continue that work. Kawasaki had to reinvent itself. Japan needed cheap, simple transportation. People needed to move to work, to markets, to schools. Cars were too expensive for most people. So, like many Japanese companies, Kawasaki began to look at small engines and motorcycles. In the 1950s, Kawasaki used its experience from airplane engines to design small, high-revving engines for bikes. At first, they did not put their own name on full motorcycles. They made engines for other companies, and they worked closely with a small Japanese motorcycle maker called Meguro. Meguro was one of Japan's first motorcycle companies. They made bikes based on British designs, but they were struggling financially. Kawasaki, with its engineering power and money, slowly took control. By the mid-1960s, Kawasaki and Meguro were joined, and Kawasaki Motorcycle Co. was born. From the beginning, Kawasaki did not want to be just another me-too brand. The motorcycle world was already getting crowded. Honda was building reliable, friendly bikes. Yamaha and Suzuki were also rising. Kawasaki asked itself a simple question: what will make us different? Their answer was power. They did not just want to make bikes for going to the market. They wanted to make bikes that would excite you, scare you a little, and make your heart beat faster. Bikes that felt like rockets on wheels. Their first steps were small. They released small bikes like the Kawasaki B8, a 125cc machine used even in off-road races. They learned, improved, and watched what riders wanted. Then, in the mid-1960s, they took a big step into larger engines and into the American market. They released a 650cc bike called the W1, based on an older Meguro design. It was one of the biggest Japanese bikes at the time. It was not perfect, but it showed Kawasaki's direction: bigger, stronger, faster. But the real turning point came at the end of the 1960s with a bike that became both famous and infamous. In 1969, Kawasaki released the H1 Mach 3, a 500cc two-stroke triple. That means it had 3 cylinders and ran on a 2-stroke engine, which is very powerful for its size. The H1 was not a polite machine. It was explosive. On paper, the power was not crazy by today's standards. But in that time, on those roads, with that frame and those brakes, it was wild. Riders said that if you opened the throttle hard, the front wheel wanted to lift off the ground. It could go from slow to very fast in just a few seconds. Magazine tests showed it was one of the quickest bikes in the world in the quarter-mile drag race. People loved it and feared it. It got nicknames like Widow Maker, because if you were not careful, it could throw you off. The handling, how the bike turned and stayed stable, was not as good as the engine. The power arrived suddenly, like a punch. Was this dangerous? Yes. Was it perfect? No. But one thing was clear. The world would never again see Kawasaki as just another boring bike company. The H1 Mach 3 wrote Kawasaki's first big chapter in the book of raw power. Kawasaki understood something. If they built the wildest, fastest machines, young riders would talk about them. And they did. Then, in the early 1970s, the motorcycle war became serious. In 1969, Honda had shocked the world with the CB750, a smooth, 4-cylinder 750cc bike. It was called the first superbike. Now, all companies wanted their own monster. Kawasaki answered in 1972 with the Z1, a 900cc 4-cylinder, 4-stroke motorcycle. It was big, strong, and powerful. At the time, it was the fastest mass-produced 4-stroke motorcycle in the world. It could do almost anything: race, tour, cruise. It became a legend. The Z1 was different from the H1. It still had the power, but it was more controlled. It showed that Kawasaki could take raw power and put it inside a strong, stable package. It proved they were not just crazy. They were clever. From the Z1, a whole family of Z bikes was born. Even today, you can see modern Kawasaki Z naked bikes on the street, and they still carry that same feeling of muscle and attitude. In the 1980s, the world of motorcycles changed again. Sport bikes became more advanced. Frames became lighter. Engines became more high-tech. Fairings, the plastic around the bike, became sharper. And Kawasaki created something that would define their image for a new generation: the Ninja. In 1984, Kawasaki released the GPZ900R. In some markets, it had the name Ninja 900. It looked like it came from the future. Full fairing, sharp lines, digital display. But the real shock was inside. It had a 16-valve, liquid-cooled engine that could rev high and go very fast. It could reach around 150 kilometers per hour. At that time, it was one of the fastest production bikes on the planet. The GPZ900R became famous not just on the road, but also in movies. If you have seen the original Top Gun movie with Tom Cruise, you might remember his black and red motorcycle. That was a Kawasaki GPZ900R. The image of the young pilot racing a fighter jet on a Ninja burned itself into the world's mind. With the Ninja, Kawasaki did something smart. They created not just a machine, but a character. Ninja became a symbol: fast, sharp, powerful, a little bit dangerous. Young riders did not just want a Kawasaki. They wanted a Ninja. In the years after that, more Ninjas came, the ZX-7R, ZX-9R, and later the ZX-10R and ZX-6R. Each one tried to push the limits of speed and handling. Kawasaki focused many resources on superbike racing and endurance racing. Green bikes became a normal sight on tracks around the world. You might have noticed something else about Kawasaki: the color. That bright lime green is not an accident. In the early days, race bikes were often red, blue, or black. Green was even considered unlucky in some racing cultures. Kawasaki chose green on purpose. They wanted to stand out. They wanted people to know, from far away, that angry green thing is a Kawasaki. Soon, fans started calling the company and its race teams Team Green. The color became part of the identity. Simple, bold, impossible to ignore, just like their bikes. While all this was happening, Kawasaki never forgot their roots in heavy industry and aircraft. They had deep knowledge of engines, metal, and airflow. Many years later, they would use this knowledge to create something truly crazy. In 2015, Kawasaki released the Ninja H2 and the H2R. These were not normal bikes. They were supercharged. A supercharger is a special compressor driven by the engine that pushes more air into the cylinders, allowing more fuel and creating much more power. It is like giving the engine an extra lung. Most bikes are not supercharged because it is hard to design and can be expensive. But Kawasaki had experience with turbo machinery and aircraft systems from their other businesses. They brought these worlds together. The Ninja H2R, the track-only version, produced over 300 horsepower. That is more power than some small cars in a machine with 2 wheels and very little weight. It could go more than 350 kilometers per hour on a long straight. It looked like something from science fiction. Sharp edges, winglets, dark mirror paint. The street-legal H2 was a bit calmer, but still one of the most powerful road bikes ever made. With the H2 and H2R, Kawasaki sent a clear message to the world. We still own the word power. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, okay, Mr. English, this is a cool bike history, but what does it have to do with my life? Let's slow down and look again, not just at the machines, but at the mindset behind them. From the very beginning, Kawasaki made a choice. They would not try to please everyone. Honda focused more on being friendly, reliable. You meet the nicest people on a Honda. Kawasaki said, "We will be the brand of raw power and excitement. If you want safe and soft, maybe choose someone else. If you want your heart to beat faster, come to us." This is a big lesson. Sometimes, to build a strong identity, you must decide what you're not. You cannot be everything at once. Kawasaki decided they were not the nice company. They were the wild one, and they stayed true to that for decades. In your own life, you may also feel pressure to please everyone: family, friends, teachers, bosses. But often, your real growth begins when you decide who you are and who you are not. Maybe you are not the funniest person in the room, but you are the most focused. Maybe you are not the top student in every subject, but you are great with people, or with code, or with design. Like Kawasaki, you can lean into your strength instead of trying to be like everyone else. There's another lesson. Raw power without control is dangerous. The early H1 Mach 3 had crazy power, but weak handling and brakes. It became famous and also feared. Over time, Kawasaki learned to keep the wild engine, but build a stronger frame, better suspension, and better brakes. They turned chaos into controlled power. In your English learning, in your career, you may have a lot of energy, You want to go fast, learn everything, do every course. But without structure and control, that energy can crash. You burn out, or you make many mistakes and lose confidence. So you need both Kawasaki's passion and Kawasaki's later engineering discipline. Study regularly, build your grammar, practice your speaking in a steady way. Then, when you need to show your power in an interview, in a presentation, in an exam, you will be ready. Think also about how Kawasaki used all its history. They were shipbuilders, train builders, airplane builders, then motorcycle builders. They did not throw away their past. They used their old skills, engines, aerodynamics, metalwork to create new products like the H2 supercharged bike. You also have old skills and old stories in your life. Maybe you worked in a shop and learned how to talk to customers. Later, you can use that experience in a sales job or as a YouTuber. Maybe you studied science, but now want to do marketing. Your science teaches you to think logically, which can help with data and strategy. Nothing is wasted if you know how to reuse it. Kawasaki also teaches us to enjoy the ride. One of their famous slogans is "Let the good times roll." Under all the power, all the technology, there's a simple truth: riding should be fun. Their ads often show people smiling, laughing, feeling alive on their bikes. In your English journey, in your work, do not forget this. Yes, discipline is important. Yes, practice is important. But if you hate every moment, you will not stay long on the road. Find ways to enjoy the process, topics you like, shows you love in English, conversations with interesting people, small victories each week. And remember this, even Kawasaki, the power company, started small. A shipyard, then small engines, then modest bikes, then legends. They did not jump from zero to Ninja H2 in 1 year. It took more than half a century. Maybe right now you feel like a 50cc scooter in life. Slow, small, ignored. But if you keep learning, keep trying, keep improving, you can slowly move up. First a 125, then a 250, then a 650. One day, you might surprise yourself with how powerful you have become. So next time you hear the scream of a green Kawasaki passing you on the road, listen carefully. Behind that sound is not only raw power, it is also years of effort, courage to be different, and the will to turn a heavy industry name into a symbol of speed. Tell me in the comments, which Kawasaki bike do you know or like? The old Z1, the Ninja 250 that many beginners ride, the crazy H2R, or maybe you have never ridden a bike but still feel something when you see that green color. And tell me, what is one power move you will take in your own life after hearing this story? Maybe starting a new habit or finally practicing speaking English daily. Thank you so much for watching and spending your time with me today on Mr. English Talks. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to this channel.